Chances are that even if you haven't touched a video game console, you know who this happy little plumber is. Super Mario, gaming's greatest superstar without a doubt. Created by the Japanese company Nintendo, Mario's appeared in TV shows, toys, and heck, even breakfast. Yet of course, it's video games that Mario, alongside his brother Luigi, are most famous for. First appearing in the 1985 classic Donkey Kong for the arcades, Mario has since had over 200 games more, 12 of them being 2D platformers in the main series alone, including Super Mario Bros., Super Mario World, and the latest, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. However, it was back in 1996 that Mario took the bold jump into 3D on the Nintendo 64. The result was Super Mario 64. 3D adventures followed with Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy, and the latest 3D platformer, Super Mario Galaxy 2. However, are these truly the only 3D outings that we've been given by Mario? You see, there's always been rumours of a fifth 3D Mario game that the plumber has never shown us, simply entitled Super Mario 1, 2, 8, or Super Mario 64 2. But before we can talk about this game which has seemingly disappeared into the mists of time, we need to go back to 1996, when Super Mario 64 was in its heyday. Now, Shigeru Miyamoto had just wowed the world with this game. It had incredible graphics, it had an incredible world to walk through. Overall, it was a pretty incredible game. The game is now considered a classic and a huge landmark in video games in general, not just by Mario fans, but by video game collectors overall. The game had Mario running through painting worlds created by the evil bad guy of the series, Bowser, or King Koopa, whichever you prefer. To this day, the game is extremely popular, even spawning a remake for the Nintendo DS. I myself am a huge fan, and heck, I even created a Let's Play of it which is still ongoing. Of course, however, with popularity you also get rumours, and oh boy, was there quite a few for this game, the biggest of which being Luigi in Super Mario 64, due to a statue in the game apparently saying "L is for real 2491, or something like that. So these rumours went on for a long time. Is he in the game? Is he not in the game? Is there a secret method of getting him? Well, eventually this all kind of boils down to it just sort of stopping. Instead of people just wanting to find new stuff in this game, they wanted to find a whole new game entirely. And Nintendo was apparently listening. For later that year we began to hear rumours of a sequel. And in fact, Super Mario 128 all spawns from one joke. You see, back in 1997, Shigeru Miyamoto, Mario's creator, was interviewed after the release of Super Mario 64. During this interview, the question of what comes next turned up. Shigeru Miyamoto simply answered with, what comes next? Super Mario 128. Actually, that's what I want to do. Now this was only a joke, but the Mario fans latched onto it. Soon after, new rumours began turning up about Luigi in Mario 64 again, this time using crudely photoshopped images posted all over the internet. Clearly fans wanted this game to come out, but it wasn't until June 1998 that we ever got any real confirmation that this game was actually going to happen. In this interview, Shigeru Miyamoto said, "It was left on my desk in the middle of development. It's a matter of priorities. Once we get down to working on the game, I think it'll be finished fairly quickly. We already prepared the sequel, like Yoshi's Story, but we're emphasising your effort towards an uncountable game, or a game that we have to build from ground zero." So now the Mario fans were pretty happy. Not only did they have confirmation of the game, but it came from Shigeru Miyamoto himself. And what's more, he said it was going to be finished rather quickly. So what the heck happened to it? Now you're probably thinking, how do we know this wasn't just Super Mario Sunshine? Well, actually, there's quite a few reasons why Super Mario Sunshine wasn't the game he was talking about. For one, the game certainly wasn't finished quickly. It missed the GameCube's original release, and thus we got Luigi's Mansion instead, which is still a very good game, but certainly not Sunshine or 128. Another reason would be that the Super Mario Sunshine beta looks nothing like the game that 128 was said to be. We'll get on to the Super Mario Sunshine beta at a later date, but if we look at this quote, also taken in the same year, you can see a very vital reason as to why it definitely wasn't Sunshine. In this November 1998 interview, Miyamoto states that, "Well, for over a year now, at my desk, a prototype program of Luigi and Mario has been running on my monitor. We've been thinking about the game, and it may be something that can work on a completely new game system." One thing that's definite about Super Mario Sunshine is that there's no Luigi within the game, not even in the beta which you're seeing right now before you. What's more, a further interview also confirms that Sunshine and another Mario game was being worked on at the very same time. This interview refers to something known as the Super Mario 128 Tech Demo. But before I explain to you what the tech demo was, let's get on with this quote. In the case of Mario, obviously we're doing work on the Mario 128 demo that we were showing at Space World, and separately we were doing work on experiments that made it into Mario Sunshine. But wait, before you get your hopes up thinking that there's some sort of strange Mario demo for a game that was never released, you'd be wrong. You see, what he is referring to isn't an incredible new game that was never sent out. Instead, it's literally a demo for the GameCube. It was to show the GameCube's processing power, and it was basically 128 Marios running around on a disc. The demo is what is playing in the background right now. I'm having to show you it fairly quickly because it's actually quite long, but as you can see, it's loads of Marios. Lots and lots of Marios coming out of blocks of another Mario. Eventually by the end of this they had 128 of them, and it was basically to show that the GameCube could handle all these models running around at the same time without crashing. You see the little green bar at the bottom there? Well, that's telling you how well the GameCube is doing. It never reaches past halfway, which is pretty impressive for a console of the time. So by this point you're probably thinking, this doesn't sound like the Mario 128 that we were talking about before, and it certainly doesn't look like a game. Not to mention there's Mario's apparently committing suicide every second in this video. Well, you see, this is where things start to get a little bit more confusing, because it turns out that Mario 128 is actually two things. It's this tech demo right here, and a game at the same time. If you recall, Miyamoto said that he had Mario and Luigi running around on a demo on his desktop. Well, that was it. That was Super Mario 128, the game, in its entirety. It never happened again. This was literally as far as it got. Miyamoto later said that he left it on his desktop for a year, and never touched it again. The game was also planned to be multiplayer, an idea that was originally wanted in Super Mario 64, which means that Luigi was actually playable in the game, just none of the games that anyone owns, only the original beta version. Nintendo had hoped that 128 would be able to handle this because it was going to be in the Nintendo 64 disk drive system, another thing we'll have to talk about at a different point in time. But what this does mean, however, is that it was basically Mario 64 but slightly moved on. When IGN gave yet another interview asking what happened to Super Mario 64 2 or Super Mario 128, Miyamoto responded with, "From the time that we were originally making Mario 64, Mario and Luigi were moving together, but we couldn't get it working in the form of a game." Then, after trying to think of what happened to Mario 64 2, he simply responded with, "I'm sorry, I've forgotten. However, I believe it's become other games." The fact that this game was apparently turned into other games is important to remember, because now it's time to confuse you even further by saying that there's a third Mario 128. The demo, the original game, and then a new game that started in development. This game, whilst unknown about by many, actually has a lot of information about it because Miyamoto talked about it on a Japanese radio show. This 128 had been moved from the GameCube to the Wii, and was now intended to show off the Wii's compatibilities as perfectly as possible, both with control-wise and graphical presentation. Mario would also have a new character travelling alongside him throughout the game, and would be the flagship Wii title. But by now you're probably thinking this sounds a lot like Super Mario Galaxy with Mario and Luma. Well, once again, it's not Mario Galaxy. It was confirmed that Mario Galaxy started in 2005 when the Donkey Kong Jungle Beat team had finished that game. And Super Mario 128 had been in development since the Mario Tech demo. So where on earth had this game gotten to? Well, instead it unfortunately turned out the game was fully scrapped and that we were never going to see it. Instead, bits and pieces of this game made its way into Mario Galaxy along with the original 128 demo. You see, the spherical walking from all the bumpy parts of the demo had been turned into Mario Galaxy's planet walking, and as for all the tiny Marios walking around, well, that actually turned into Pikmin. And that pretty much sums up the entire story of Super Mario 128. So to conclude, what exactly have we learnt? Conclusion! Super Mario 128 was originally Super Mario 64's sequel, but it never got past the planning stages. It later became the name for a tech demo for the GameCube which helped design Galaxy and Pikmin. Alongside it, another game was made, but that was also scrapped and never saw the light of day, but does indeed exist.